Elspeth here from Vegan News Daily, and today I'm going to show you how to make mushroom bourguignon. This recipe was made famous by Chef Julia Childs with her beef bourguignon, but there is no need to use any animal products in this wonderful recipe. So I'm going to use cremini mushrooms, which I've just gone ahead and cut in quarters. You can use white button mushrooms, and I've made this in using shiitake mushrooms too, which are absolutely fabulous. So I'm going to use a 4-quart coquette. I just need to get this burner on, and I'm going to add the mushrooms to the pot. And it's going to be a little tight, but the mushrooms are going to give off a whole lot of liquid, and they're going to break down in the with the heat of the pot. So we've got mushrooms going on there, and I'm also going to use artichokes. If you don't like artichokes, you can simply leave them out. So I have quartered artichokes. These are just ones that were frozen, and I went ahead and defrosted them. I'll add those. So about 12 ounces of artichokes, and pearl onions. These little onions are absolutely delicious and delectable. I'm using frozen ones. You can definitely buy them fresh, boil them, and then peel them. It takes a long time, but if you have the time and you want to sit and do that, you're welcome. This is an easier way, just using frozen onions that are thawed. So those are going in the pot. One got away. And I just stir this in. I'm a little bit ambitious using this 4-quart pot, but I'm going to keep going on with that. The next ingredient that I add is carrots. So I think in my recipe I called for about 3 carrots. And as you know, carrots come in all different shapes and sizes. So I'm going to go with 4 carrots today. And the cut that I use for this recipe is called a roll cut or an oblique cut. So all I do is I pinch up on the blade of the knife, and I'm going to have to literally roll my sleeves up here. Pinch up on the blade of the knife and just cut at an angle, and then roll the carrot over and cut again, and then roll again and cut. And I'll show you end up with these wonderful shapes. So you end up with these wonderful shapes that are really perfect for something like a stew or this mushroom bourguignon, because the carrots will remain large enough that they won't just go into mush. So you'll be able to sort of crunch into them a little bit. Well, they're not really going to be crunchy, but they'll be, at least you'll know that you're eating a carrot and not just something mushy. So I'll just keep going, doing this oblique cut. And some of these are a little bit large, so I might just, cut them in half. No one's going to be judging your knife skills here. So the carrots are going in, and I'll just keep going with a few more. So that's it, all the carrots going into the pot. And then I'll give it a good stir, being careful not to let any of the vegetables jump out of the pot. But I've got a lot of beautiful colors and textures in here, and I can hear the sizzling happening at the bottom. So I want to just keep stirring. And if things were starting to stick to the bottom of the pot, I could just simply use a little splash of water to make sure that it doesn't stick. But there's a lot of liquid being given out by the mushrooms here. So I'm just going to let that cook for a little while, and then we'll move on with the rest of the recipe. So I'm just going to let this cook together for about 4 to 5 minutes until everything starts to soften just a little, and then we'll add some more ingredients to this wonderful recipe. So this has all been cooking down for about 5 minutes here, and I'm going to add one of the key ingredients in this wonderful recipe is Herbes de Provence. Herbes de Provence is a very common herb mixture that's used in the south of France, and I absolutely love it. This has got marjoram and thyme and fresh and lavender. So I'm going to use about 2 teaspoons of Herbes de Provence, and then I'm also going to use 3 bay leaves. So this is one thing that we need to remember to remove from the pot before we serve it, because you really don't want any of your guests or family members choking on a bay leaf. So 3 of them going in. I also need some tomato paste. So if you can find organic tomato paste in a jar, it's a winner. So I'm going to use a little bit of tomato paste in there. Maybe a little bit more. This is going to add a nice depth of flavor. And I'm using coconut aminos. This is going to add a little savory flavor. So in place of salt, I don't use salt in anything that I cook. This does have some sodium in it, but it's a very low sodium amount. So I'm using about 1/4 cup for this entire recipe. And just shake that in. I think that's about right. And since this is a French recipe, we are going to use red wine. So red wine is going to really amp up the flavor big time. So I'm just going to pour that in. And then I'm going to mix it all together. Stir these all together. And I'm going to let this cook for about 8 minutes here. And we're going to let it really break down and let all the alcohol cook off of the wine. So I'm going to invite my daughter Keely on to tell us more about Bourguignon and why we don't use any animal products in the Bourguignon.
Hello everybody, thank you Mom. It smells super good, wow. So yes, I do have some fun facts to share with you guys about Bourguignon. And so traditionally, of course, you use beef in this recipe, but like my mom said, there's no reason to use beef. All of the flavor is coming from plants and all of the herbs and spices that we're adding. So meat, beef in particular, is actually a class 2 carcinogen, which means it probably causes cancer. And also, beef is one of the highest causes of food poisoning, so that is just something that you can easily avoid by using mushrooms in this recipe. And mushrooms have so many different benefits. They actually are a great source of tryptophan, which helps to release serotonin in our bodies, which is the happiness molecule, and they also help to cleanse the liver. So definitely incorporating them is a much healthier alternative. And cows are also incredibly intelligent and adorable. So I have 4 fun facts to share with you about cows. First, cows have incredible problem-solving abilities that involves logic. So once they master a problem, they celebrate by jumping around, wagging their tails, and running happily, which is very adorable. So cows are also extremely good memories. So they have been found to not only recognize faces, but they'll recognize faces after a long period of time. They also remember their favorite grazing spots and their favorite watering hole. And cows form really strong bonds and friendships with other cows, so they even have a cow clique and hang out with only their best of the best friends. So I'm sure we can all relate. And cows, unfortunately in the dairy industry, are really distressed and saddened when their calves are taken from them within a few days of giving birth. So this is really heartbreaking. Their babies are taken away and the cows are just bellowing and crying, and the other cows try to come over and help the bereaving mother cow and try to comfort that cow. So if we can avoid supporting the dairy and the meat industry, which we can easily by going vegan and plant-based, and we like to show you guys how to do that in a fun way, it is a really great move for not only the cows, but also for our health and for the planet.
I actually grew up on a dairy farm in Zimbabwe and have clear memories of baby cows crying for their mothers, and because they were separated at birth, and my father used to have to take the male calves into the abattoir. My sister and I used to drive with him in the truck to the abattoir, and we used to just beg our father, can we just please keep this one baby calf? It was really sad. So I have clear memories of that. So I'm glad that we're not doing it.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to just leave it off the plate. So this dish, the historically beef bourguignon, comes from the region of Burgundy. That's where the Bourguignon name comes from. And Burgundy is a region of France that is known for its wine and also its architecture. And so, of course, we're using wine in the recipe. If you don't want to use wine, you can leave it out. And you can get non-alcoholic wine. As always, try to find vegan wines. A lot of wines aren't vegan. And this dish was popularized, like my mom said, by Julia Child in her cookbook in the 1961 called Mastering the Art of French Cooking. And she said that this was the best beef dish created by men. And so we think she would think this is the best non-beef bourguignon created by women. What is next for the cooking?
So right now we have this wonderful flavor combination going on, but it's very liquidy. The onions and the mushrooms and the carrots, everything have given off a little liquid. We've added some wine, so we need to thicken it up. So next up, I'm going to add some vegetable stock and some cornstarch. Cornstarch is what's going to thicken this up. So think I use about 3 teaspoons of cornstarch, and I have this adorable little whisk that I'm going to use to whisk the cornstarch in here. Whoops, we've had a little cornstarch powder there. Explosion. So I'll put 3 teaspoons of cornstarch in here, and then I'll just whisk it into the vegetable broth, and then add this to the pot. And this will help thicken up the gravy, so we have this luscious, delicious gravy going on. So let me just get that all mixed in, because we don't want any clumps happening. And I'll just add that in, and then stir this in. And this will keep cooking for about another 10 minutes until it thickens up and there's a beautiful, delicious gravy. So you'll notice the whole time I'm cooking, I'm leaving the lid off here because there is a whole lot of liquid going on here. So I'll just keep stirring that every now and again and checking in on it. And whilst that's happening, I'm going to move on and show you how to make the cauliflower mashed potatoes. So this is a really delicious meal to serve with mashed potatoes, and I like to take it up a notch and make cauliflower mashed potatoes. Cauliflower adds a whole lot more nutrition to the mashed potatoes, and it also adds a whole lot of creaminess. So I have gone ahead and just steamed up some cauliflower, and I've also boiled some Yukon Gold potatoes. Yukon Gold are the ones that I like, but use whatever potatoes you like. I don't peel the potatoes. You can peel them. Do whatever you want. And I've also gone ahead and put a couple of cloves of garlic in with the cauliflower to cook. So that adds some nice garlic flavor to it. So you probably have your favorite way of making mashed potatoes. And all the while I need to just check on this pot and just make sure it's doing okay. It's starting to thicken up nicely. The flavors are, the aromas are wonderful in my kitchen right now too. So I have a couple of ways that I could do it. I have this potato ricer, which is a wonderful gadget. This one is actually made by OXO, and I like it because you can actually turn the base of this, and if you like a finer mashed potato, you can just turn it to a setting with a smaller hole. I like it sort of a chunky mashed potato, so I'm going to leave it on the larger hole right here. So all you do is you just put your potatoes and your cauliflower into the ricer. This is called a potato ricer, sorry, I did want to mention that. This is a ricer, and I'm just going to pop everything in here, and then you can simply just squeeze it, and you'll see the potatoes coming out, and there's no mystery as to why it's called a ricer. So I'll just keep doing that with the rest of the potatoes, and then I can give it a good stir. You can definitely use just a regular masher. In fact, maybe that's what I'll move to here, because that'll just be a whole lot quicker. I'll just add everything to the bowl and just give it a good mash. And there's a little bit of the cooking liquid in with the vegetables. You could use some plant-based milk if you wanted, but I just use a little splash of the cooking liquid to go in here. So I'll just give this a good mash, and I could season it with some pepper, some black pepper. I always like to add black pepper, and salt-free seasoning. I use Benson's Table Tasty. You can use whatever salt-free seasoning you like to use. So I do season up the potatoes a little bit, but with the mushroom bourguignon, I don't put anything in it until I get to the table. I like to season my food at the table. So I'm just going to there's so many flavors in here. I don't think it's going to need anything, and I don't want to automatically assume that it needs some flavor. So I'm just going to go ahead and mash this up together, and we'll keep checking back on the bourguignon. So that's it. All we have to do now is plate this wonderful dish. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we need to grab our bay leaves out of here. Very important. So that's one. I know I put 3. So I need to fish around and try and find the third. Oops, there it is. Okay, great. So I've got the bay leaves out, so we're safe. I can now plate up the mushroom bourguignon. So I like to serve it in these bowls. It's just like a really lovely hearty meal that you can have, well, any time of year, but in the fall or the winter is particularly nice to have a nice big bowl of this. So you can first spoon in your mashed potatoes. I like a chunky mashed potato, so this is exactly how my family likes their mashed potatoes. But if you like a smoother mashed potato, you can certainly mash it a little bit longer and do it whichever method you like. So I'm just going to add a generous amount of this cauliflower mashed potato to the bowl. I'll set that aside. And this mushroom bourguignon has thickened up beautifully, so you can see there's a nice thick gravy here. So I'm going to spoon some of the bourguignon over the mashed potato. Right there. And then I'll take the next one. Wow, it smells incredible. Really good. So the way I finish this off is I have some fresh rosemary and fresh thyme, which are both ingredients that are in the Herbes de Provence. So I've gone ahead and minced up some of the fresh rosemary and fresh thyme, and I'll simply sprinkle it over the top of the bourguignon, so that when you take your first mouthful of this delicious dish, you'll have some fresh herbs that hit your palate. And then I like to just garnish it with, I could use thyme, I could use just sprigs of fresh parsley. So I'll just clip a little parsley, not parsley, rosemary, and that's it. So that's a beautiful dish to serve to friends, to family, or to just have in your regular weekly rotation. But it comes together very quickly. It's less than 30 minutes to make this wonderful meal, and traditional boeuf bourguignon can take anywhere from 3 to 5 to 8 hours or something. So this is delicious. I hope you enjoy, and don't forget, bon appetit. And please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Vegan News Daily. That way you won't miss out on any of our wonderful recipes.